guys, my name's Rhonda, and this is part 2 of my Memoirs of a Meth Addict. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, these videos will be going in order, so please start there. So today I'm just going to start off where I left in my last video, and that was where I was talking about the paranoia and the different types of paranoia I described briefly. So today is going to be an in-depth look at what that paranoia actually was. So when I first started, from the first couple weeks to the first few months, I experienced the type of paranoia that most of you have probably heard about. If you've heard anything about people that are on meth, it's pretty typical that those people think that everybody's a cop, and they're known for looking out the window constantly and thinking that somebody's in the bushes, or that their house is being watched, or they're being followed, etc. I was also to the point that because my house had a lot of people coming in and out of it all the time, I started getting concerned about different people being cops or snitches, or we had various names for what we called those people, but just not trusting new people. And if I were driving, thinking that the cop behind me had been following me. If they happened to pick up their cell phone and I noticed they were talking on the phone, they were calling the cops on me. It was just like that kind of paranoia, which I know sounds stupid, but it's actually a pretty basic thing, for people that are on meth. Everyone that I know that's been on meth has experienced that type of paranoia. That's just an attribute of the meth lifestyle. So, but it didn't take long before that paranoia developed into something even more serious, and it became, it got to the point where I could hear voices, not voices like in my head, but I heard them like with my ears. I don't know how to describe it, but there's different kinds of, like, when somebody hears voices, they're either actually inside the head that they hear it, or they're audible voices, and these were audible. I heard voices, men and women's voices, inside my house and inside my car, and at that time, these were the voices of people that had bugged my house, because I believed that my house and my phone were wired or bugged, and basically these were people that were watching me. These particular voices I could talk to. If I talked out loud, they would answer me back. But like if I was just thinking something, they wouldn't respond to my thoughts or anything like that. But I could talk to them, and they terrified me. They threatened me. They basically like told me that what I needed to do, and if I didn't do it, what my punishment was going to be, that kind of thing. And so that was just a really, really scary time for me. And then eventually, like, I remember the night that it happened, that those voices went from being voices that I had to talk out loud to voices that I could think to. And that particular night, I was in my apartment, and I had like 5 to 10 people at my apartment that night, and a girl was on my computer typing something up, and my friend, one of my guy friends, was in my kitchen with me, and we were kind of like arguing or whatever. I don't remember what specifically it was about, but I called him a-hole in my head. Like, I just thought, man, he's an a-hole. And all of a sudden, he responded to that thought, and he was like, yeah, well, I don't think too highly of you either. And it really, like, it just freaked me out. Like, I didn't say that out loud, and yet he's responding to it. So I freaked, but I didn't say anything, but inside I'm like freaking out. And I'm telling myself, well, maybe it was just a coincidence. And as soon as I thought that, the girl at my computer turned around to me and she said, hey, Rhonda, how do you spell coincidence? Yeah, it was terrifying. And from that point on, I believed that people could hear my thoughts. And no more did I have to talk out loud to these people. And now, let me also just note that before, these audible voices weren't specifically voices of people that I knew. And now, starting at this night, the voices that I heard, the voices that could hear my thoughts, were people that I knew. And so that made it even more scary, because now my friends, family, whoever, pretty much anybody can hear my thoughts. And I mean, I tried to rationalize it. I tried to figure out, how is this real? Like, because I know that people can't hear my thoughts. I know that this can't be real. So there's got to be an answer. And so I started, just thinking, well, maybe I'm sleeping. Maybe this is just a dream. And I'm thinking along those lines, and all of a sudden, this dream, this nightmare that I had months and months before this, popped into my head. And that nightmare was of me being in a burning house. And then all of a sudden, this fear just came over me, and I realized, I just thought, oh my gosh, I was in a house fire. I'm in a coma. None of this is real. And that's what I believed, and that's what I lived by for I don't even know how long. But basically, because I believed that was real, I just stopped caring. And of course, it didn't take long for me to just kind of grow out of thinking that way and just believing, hey, people can hear my thoughts and I can't do anything about it, and I don't know if this is real or not, but I'm miserable. And so at that point, I just stopped talking to people completely. I wrote. I just wrote and wrote and wrote. A lot of it was poetry, but a lot of it was just my thoughts, because if I didn't write my thoughts down, I had a hard time separating what I was thinking and what was actually real. And because I had all these different voices going on that were like mocking my thoughts, or making fun of me, or whatever, I found that I had to write everything that I was thinking down. Otherwise, these voices had a tendency to twist my thoughts into just really real ugliness, and just making me feel like a horrible person. And so I just wrote my thoughts down constantly. That's all I did. I still have notebook after notebook after notebook of just thoughts, just random thoughts that I had to write down in order to keep whatever bit of sanity I had left. Some of the books that I kept at the time that I'm talking about. These are some of them right here. And I've also got this, which is just full of thoughts, basically. It's a lot of thoughts written down on paper, and I've read through most of it, and honestly, when I read it, it just doesn't even feel like I'm reading about a part of my past. It feels like this is like a movie that I watched a long time ago, and I'm just like, you know what I mean? It's like I kind of experienced it, I watched it, but it wasn't really me. That's kind of how it feels. It's really hard to describe, but it's just, I read some of this stuff, some of this really, really crazy stuff, dialogue of me talking to the people that I was having conversations with inside my head, and writing down, what they were saying and what I was saying and what they were saying and what I was saying, and I just wrote the dialogue back and forth. And honestly, I can't tell you why I did it like that, but it was just a part of my coping mechanism. I really don't know. But it just got really confusing for me, because these people that were listening to my thoughts and being mean to me inside my head and mocking me were the same people that were bringing over drugs and getting high with me. And then they would, in my head tell me, that what I was doing was wrong and I needed to stop, and what was going to happen and all this stuff. So it was just really confusing, because I developed a lot of anger toward these people, because I felt like they were being hypocrites, they're getting me high, they're getting high with me, and then they're telling me that what I'm doing is so wrong. But again, this is all just stuff that was going on inside my head. So there was a lot of other stuff too. It wasn't all just conversations about that. There were some really scary things that had happened. I don't want to get into too much detail, just for the protection of other people from back then, but one of my friends, his whole family had gotten murdered during this time, and I started hearing thoughts about that particular thing too, which became terrifying for me, because I believed in my head at the time that people that were involved in that were people that were in my house, you know. So just like really, really scary for me. I was obviously dealing with people on a regular basis that were criminals and that, you know, were involved in some really serious stuff. And so a lot of that is legitimate paranoia. I mean, I was putting myself in a very scary situation just by being in that lifestyle. So it makes sense to me that some of that paranoia would exist. But just the level of paranoia that I experienced is just unreal. I mean, it was so terrifying. This poem is called Hate Me. And I have this huge book. This is all poetry. But this poem is called Hate Me. Hate me if you must, but please don't let me know. And if you talk behind my back, keep your voices low. Please respect that I have feelings, even if they do not show. Your words hurt me deeply, more than you'll ever know. Please don't laugh when you look at me. Don't give me accusing eyes. There's so much more than you can see. Please don't believe the lies. Don't tell me that I'm your friend and then walk away in my time of need. Don't stab me in the back and expect it not to bleed. Please don't drag me along, then leave me alone standing in the dust. And please don't accuse me of being wrong, but hate me if you must.